There has been this long talk discussion on film criticism. As of recently, when no movie critic can ever criticize a film or call a film bad, or make a worst film list because they don't want to deteriorate a filmmaker's hard work because of the work that could come from making a movie. And as someone who's a content creator, I've been doing YouTube for 7.5 years now as I'm filming this. I do have a huge amount of respect goes into making stuff like that, and I try sometimes not to talk about or shit or about bad or terrible movies, honestly. But I mean, they are bad and terrible, and for the longest time, I never thought what was the film that I disliked the most, or the film that's my least favorite of all time. As there is, as not gonna realize, there is definitely a difference between your least favorite of all time or the worst. The worst being the film that has the worst absolute qualities of a film, and the film that you generally hate watching the most. For me, that will go to M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender for the massive butchering of the source material, which, if not kind of survivor, it would be my favorite show of all time. And it would just be a drab, boring film all the way through in general. Your least favorite is a film that may have a few redeeming qualities about it, but it's the film that just infuriates you the most. Whether it's the characters, the messaging, certain scenes about it, and just structure. Basically, a lot of this always makes them terrible, but it just affects you in the worst possible way than even the worst film of all time didn't make you feel. And that's the film for me I will be discussing to you today, and that, my friends, is 2021's Music. Oh boy. For those who don't know, Music was released in February 12, 2021, and is directed by popular musician Sia, who has definitely made a name for herself in the 2010s, but has been a songwriter for most of her career. I think 2014 was where her career skyrocketed and became a huge fan of the pop star and everything. I think she was one point to be on guest features, not just her own music, and a lot of stuff very popular and all that stuff. And she started to try her hand into being directing and writing. The film also stars Kate Hudson and Leslie Odom Jr., two popular actors, and Sia's longtime collaborator, Maddie Ziegler. And the film basically is about Hudson's character Zoo, who is a former drug dealer who is now the sole guardian of her sister Music, who is on the autistic spectrum. As this film deals what was going to tell a story about autism. But we'll get into that later. And it's about the ups and downs of dealing with her and growing as a person throughout. Like, I remember when this film came out a couple years ago and the huge amount of backlash it received from the autistic community. And even when I was discussing the autistic nature here, it's a terrible film in general, while despite having great visuals and solid acting in its cast, has one of the most unlikable lead characters in recent memory that never changes or develops throughout the runtime. And also, for those who don't know, I'm also on the autistic spectrum as well. I'm pretty much diagnosed that all my life, so that's what makes this film very personal. Is the fact that it's probably the most offensive portrayal of autism I've ever seen. Don't rage just yet. Do not rage just yet. But before we get to what makes this film so frustrating and why it is my least favorite movie of all time, I'm sure probably would know, but before we get to that, again, let's get to the few positives it has that does not make this film be one of the worst films ever made, because there are some good things to say about it. Again, the acting from Kate Hudson, Leslie Odom Jr., and Maddie Ziegler are all solid, and they do their best with the material they're given. And despite how their placement in the movie is, the music video sequences are great and visually excellent, which, as you've seen, like a lot of the music from Sia, you can kind of expect that. So videos are always visually incredible, and Maddie Ziegler is known for being an incredible dancer. Like, it's never why not. I mean, she was on freaking Dance Moms, honestly, so she was known for being one of the best dancers out there. But as fun as those sequences are, they have no place in the actual story. They were meant to display the uniqueness of music as a character and how autism makes her see the world differently and vibrantly, which I mean, autistic people do see the world very differently. Again, I'm autistic myself, so. But really, it just felt like more of this useful, like, hey, look how beautiful and amazing this is, instead of showing something actually interesting in those sequences. And again, what it shows sequences don't really add anything to the actual story. Now, even if the film itself wasn't about autistic autism, it mostly just feels like your terrible, generic family movie, with, again, having two of the most unlikable leads in the film who do some terrible things, do some questionable stuff, especially in Leslie Owens Jr. That means they cannot ever change, and by the end, they are romantically together, but they are the same people as they are in the beginning. And despite all they supposedly learned and been through, you don't really feel like they actually changed throughout the runtime, which in case kind of makes the journey kind of pointless. Again, I feel like the characters grow at least a little bit throughout the journey. Like, you can have that work, honestly, but this is a case where majority of the time it never really works because you feel like it doesn't grow or at least learn something throughout the journey. I feel like you kind of waste your time. Like, that's definitely no fact, but it's definitely one of the worst examples here. Like, nothing interesting happening throughout. But now, as they always say, this is personal. This was the reason my music has been heavily criticized, and that is the portrayal of autism. Now, it's no secret that a majority of media tends to not get this disability right. And while there always happens to good exceptions, like RJ Styles' Billy from Power Rangers, Ben Affleck's Christian Wolf from The Accountant, Frank Highmore's Sean Murphy from The Good Doctor, and by far the best portrayal so far, Kayla Krummer, who by the way is an actual autistic person, Matilda from the underrated Everything's Gonna Be Okay, which if you guys check that out, I would highly recommend it. Watch definitely the main character show, her portrayal of autism is fantastic, and definitely the most realistic portrayal of that disability that we have gotten. But from the and also Dustin Hoffman's character from Rayman as well, I will also mention as well. But for the most part, people didn't use the usual stereotypes that are portrayed autism, just like being too smart, too nonverbal, too not social, and everything. They just go for that one trait and never go for anything else. And at first it was interesting that Sia wanted to tell the story, and she, as known as, even claimed to have spent 3 years studying autism and the behaviors following autism. But apparently they had the dreaded autism speaks at one point considered, which was not a good sign. And when they even did climb the movie, you know there was something wrong here. And I won't get to the deal on autism speaks, I'm pretty sure you guys know about that, but I don't get that. And apparently, a natural autistic person was cast, but Sia apparently couldn't handle them because of autism, which, from what I heard, yeah. After that when this film came out, Sia basically just trashed a lot of people. Especially when she did during that casting, like she ended up getting all criticism on that, and she basically went on social media and trashed a lot of people, which is definitely not a good sign for this person. But yeah, this movie has the most bottom of the barrel portrayal of autism we have had, going for the most stereotypical things involving autism. And despite the film supposed to be a struggle of what one goes through with autism, we never get any struggle that music goes through throughout the movie. And do not get me started. Do not get me started on the scenes where they restrain her, which is something you never, and I mean never do to an autistic person, especially with the way that they do it. It's something that can not only cause actual pain or injury, but even death. That's been confirmed, honestly, but, like, it was not that bad when Sia apparently at least a statement with the end of having to get rid of those scenes, if I remember correctly. Just... And again, Maddie Ziegler plays music, who is Sia's close freaking collaborator and supposedly mother figure. It's not secret that these two characters are pretty much close to. It's also non-autistic, and again, despite the effects portrayal, I don't blame Ziegler at all, honestly. I don't blame her at all, honestly. I mean, again, she was fine. She was fine. Again, I don't blame her at all. I blame Sia, obviously. And you also know what the funny thing is? Is that despite the film being called music, despite the film being called music, who's the actual character of the movie, she's actually barely the actual focus here. Yeah, she's barely the focus of her own movie. At least in terms of the story, with more focus on Kate Hutch's character, who, as I mentioned, is incredibly selfish and unlikable, and a lot of times I feel like doesn't even care about music at all throughout the movie. And the worst part about music is that music herself doesn't go through any of the struggles that autistic people do. She feels like she lives in her own fantasy world, which you gotta know what you're displaying here. But if you tell us about autistic people, you might want to talk about the struggles that they go through. It's not like happy sunshine and rainbows. They don't really do well at all with explaining what music actually goes through throughout the movie, what art that she has, what she has to go through every day with the disability. And again, while the music dancers are impressive, they don't really give an insight on her as a character and who she really is. Which again, I was gonna point that was kind of the point, but you don't really see the point here. Yeah, I'm getting angry just thinking about this. Now, you can probably tell that Sierra's heart was in the right place here, but she did it in the worst possible way, and that upset a ton of people, even non-autistic people, were upset by it. It also comes that after this movie, Sia's career pretty much went down the toilet. Aside from the Unstoppable, from the old song Unstoppable that kind of resurges lately, because we know that nowadays we say old songs that get popular now, and we would die for that's a story for another day. We don't really see Sia like really do much of anything, or when she does try to do something, it's not really. She's basically not as popular or beloved as she once was. And for good reason, honestly. Even I lost my prejudice, and I used to love her music. I used to always love listening to Chandelia, Elastic Heart, so many of those songs, and while I still do enjoy listening to them, it doesn't feel the same, honestly, to listen to an actual Sia song because of everyone this. Because, like, this is definitely proof that one terrible thing, one awful thing, can really harm your experience, harm how the audience feels about you. But again, even without the autistic aspect, the film would still be terrible with having nonsensical music sequences that don't add anything to the story or characters, two main leads that are the most insensitive and likable characters in recent memory that they desperately want you to deeply care about, but again, how can you care about them without the film giving you a reason why? The story is not compelling and in fact kind of boring, it's poorly paced, uninteresting, and doesn't even lead to anything or any meaningful change with the characters. And again, despite it has great visuals, the cinematography, and solid acting, which again does prevent it from being my least favorite movie of all time. I mean, the worst movie I've ever seen. Again, that's The Last Airbender. Sia's poor directing of the story, the offensiveness of the autism, the awful characters, and writing cement my hatred for this movie. And the fact that aside from it, and again, Sia's pretty much had gone told after this movie. And all of those reasons, for me, is why music, for me, is my least favorite movie of all time. I hope you guys enjoyed this nice little video essay. This is kind of a video I wanted to do for quite a while, so I'm happy to be able to do it. Let me know what you thought about this video down below in the comments, and let me know what are your thoughts on music in general, what are your thoughts on movies you've seen it, or how you feel about it now in general. Let me know down below. And I also want to give two special shout outs to the people that actually inspired me to do these videos, and that is Friendly Space Ninja and Film Speak. If you guys have not checked out these two incredible creators on YouTube, I don't know what they're doing. They both have incredible video essays about various topics on movies and TV shows. Sometimes I have very great hot takes on certain aspects, and in general, they are some of the most passionate people you will ever find on the platform. I'm going to want to do some video to try and support them because they're the creators I always watch and support the most recently. So, I mean, Friendly Ninja, I started watching it very early in his career. It's crazy to see how much he has done in the last couple of years. And Film Speak, I knew back in 2017, and it's crazy how much he has done since then. So, I would highly recommend checking out these two incredible creators who create some of the best essay videos you ever do. Even if you don't agree with what they say in those videos, you can't have a deep passion in the heart that they put into there. So I would highly recommend it. So I do have a few more video essay videos coming very soon. I'm actually excited to do more of this content down the road. I am Cyril One World of Civil Petitions. I will see you next time. As always, stay cooler. Everybody, peace.